Okay. Please pay attention. Can you hear me? Please show your thumbs up if you can hear me, children. Yes? Everybody? I want to see everybody's thumbs up. Aditi Rodgi, can you listen or not? So your thumbs is somewhere else or what? Okay, fine. I think you all have done the chapter that is nationalism in Europe. Nationalism in Europe, you all have done till the third part. The third part, let me tell you all the brief introduction, not introduction. I cannot tell you the full introduction. I'll just tell you the topics. Your chapter begins with the painting of Frederick Sorio in the year 1848. After that, you had done about how the French created a sense of collective belonging, all the points which the French undertook to create unity among the people. Okay, then we had done about 1804. Rakshita Maru, what is making you laugh? Am I cracking a joke over here? Then we had done about Napoleon Bonaparte, that is 1804, Napoleon Bonaparte. Please don't look in your book just now, listen to me carefully. We had done 1804, Napoleon Bonaparte had come to the throne of France. And he did away with democracy, but as far as the administration was concerned, he made the entire system very rational and very efficient by introducing his code, which was called as Napoleonic Code or Civil Code of 1804. Is that clear? Then after that, we had done about, sir must have done this, that is making of nationalism. That is the second part. When we were doing making of nationalism, in that we had seen that Europe was divided into a number of small territories, cantons, duchies, and this and that. And thinking of unity or thinking of nation state or bringing the country under one particular nation, that was virtually impossible. Why? Because there was Habsburg dynasty also, there was Galatian dynasty also, there was Magyar also, there was Slovens also, there was Romans also, there was Carnola also, and so many people were there. And to be under one rule was virtually impossible. Then how did nationalism came? For that matter, that brings us to the next topic, that is aristocracy and the new middle class. Okay, aristocracy, very small in number, but very rich, and they used to combine together and they used to be connected by ties of marriages. Then in the middle class, there was one group which had become very much important. Shreya, you can turn the pages of the book afterward. Just now listen. In this middle class only, there was one particular group which was coming up, and that was the rich businessmen who had by now become enlightened, who had by now become rich and aware and literate also. These were the people who used to say that we should have what? Nationalism, freedom, liberty, and so on. So this brings you all to the next topic, that is liberalism. Liberal nationalism, what did it stand for? When we talk of liberal nationalism, then we study liberal nationalism in two terms. One is political terms and one is economic terms. Liber is a Latin word which means free. Okay, and liberalism, as far as politically it was concerned by government by consent, then representative form of government, then parliament, then right to speak and equality before law, and so on. Okay, but they never believed in voting rights for everyone. As far as economic liberalism was concerned, people used to believe in movement of things and goods from one place to the other. Okay, for that matter, when Napoleon had formed a number of territories, he was introducing his administrative reforms. He had made out of a number of principalities a federation of 39 states in Germany. Your videos are all off, children, again. 39 state, okay, but these two used to have their own currency, which used to make the things very expensive by the time it used to reach its destination. So this was considered as obstacles for economic growth and development, which was removed by the King of Prussia. In place of Germany, there was another country which was called as Prussia, okay, by the Prussian king, and he introduced one concept which was called as Zollverein. What it was called as? Zollverein, which reduced the currency from 30 to 2. And when this kind of economic freedom came before the people were excited because it further motivated the people towards nationalism or liberalism. Okay, so this was all about your now. After that is your new conservatism. New conservatives. Conservatives are those people who believe in old kind of thinking. Since Napoleon had brought a lot of, what do you say, problems in the entire continent of Europe. So four countries got together, Britain, Russia, Prussia, and Austria, and all of them combinedly defeated Napoleon at the Battle of Waterloo. And after that, in Europe, there was a kind of wave of conservatism which was going on. This wave of conservatism means they believed in old kind of thinking. That is, churches should be there, hierarchy should be there, aristocracy should be there, and monarchy should be there. So all these four countries, they got together, and there was a meeting which was held in Vienna. There was a meeting which was held in Vienna in the year 1915, sorry, 1815. This was hosted by Duke Metternich. Duke Metternich, he was the Chancellor of Austria, and he held up this meeting. And in this, the main motto was how to control France. So a number of decisions was taken. Say, for example, in the north of France, another country was developed, which was called as the United Kingdom of Netherlands and Belgium. In the south, Genoa was there. Then this western part was given to Prussia, that is Prussia of France only. Bourbon dynasty, which was earlier ruling France, it was brought back to power. This eastern part of France and the conquered territories was given to Russia. Okay, Poland was also given to Russia. So these were the conservative regimes, and and conservatives were like autocrats. Autocrats is that person, children, who does not listen to anyone. Whatever he thinks, that is right. A leader can also become an autocrat. A king can also become an autocrat. So autocratic kind of government was there. Finally, these people, they never used to tolerate anything against the government. So all those people who used to talk of liberty, freedom, and so on, they all feared some kind of repression. Repression means some kind of beating, some kind of harassment, some kind of harassment. Hindi mein jisko hum bolte hain atyachar. So all of them went underground and they formed their different secret societies. Then, so the next topic brings us, that is revolutionaries. Those, why revolutionaries, children? Because those people, revolutionaries, we are going to use, children. Why? Because those people who till now used to talk of nationalism, liberty, and freedom, they were now considered as revolutionaries. Bhagat Singh was a revolutionary and Mahatma Gandhi was a nationalist. This is the difference. Okay, so revolutionary is that persons who revolt against the present government. So those people who used to talk of nationalism, freedom, and liberty, they were called as revolutionaries. And fearing arrest, many of them went underground and formed their secret societies, where they used to conduct their activities. Is that clear? Okay. So this is your next topic, that is revolutionaries. In revolutionaries, you must have studied about Giuseppe Mazzini. Please, children, put on your videos. Okay. Giuseppe Mazzini was an Italian who always believed that is that Italy should be united. Children, one thing which you should know is this, that in the world there was no country which was called as Italy before 1861, and no country which was called as Germany before 1871. Okay, so this was being done. Did you all do this, children? Everybody has done this also. Aditi Rohadgi, I am asking you. Ye kar liya tha sara? So should we start from making of nationalism? That is making of Germany and Italy only. From there only we should do. Okay, fine then. Then you all read, and if you have any problem, then we will be having a doubt class, in that you all can ask. So I will not. No, I will just tell you the topic. After this, Giuseppe Mazzini. This brings us to your third topic, that is the age of revolution. Whatever happened in Europe in the year 1830 to 1848, that was being discussed in this part. The first is 3 revolutions had taken place. One was in France itself. The second was in United Kingdom of Netherlands and Belgium breaking away. Then the third was in Greek. Then was the topic, that is romantic imagination and nationalistic feeling. In this, you must have read about that nationalism did not only come because of struggles or because of actions of great leaders, but it had also come because of the various other kind of emotions, intuitions, mystic feelings, national songs, flags, then music, then folklore, folk songs, and so on. Three persons was discussed over here: Karol Kurpinski, John Gottfried Herder, and language part in Poland, where Russian was imposed and and Polish language was banned everywhere, but still the people kept on speaking in Polish language. Dipanshi Jain, please pay attention, beta. Okay. Anyways, so this was it. Then after that, it was hunger, hardship, and revolt. When we used to talk about hunger, hardship, and revolt, when we talk about hunger, hardship, and revolt, then you must have studied about this, that 1830 to 1848 were also the years of hunger, hardship, and revolt in Europe. Population was increasing. People were migrating from the villages to the cities. So in the cities, slums were developing. Okay, then there was more job seekers as compared to the jobs available, and all this created a lot of problem for the people. All this created a lot of problem for the people. Finally, 1848 was one such year. You come after 10 minutes, I think. Okay, finally, after 1848, again, there was problem in France, where people of France came on the road and barricades were erected, and the King Louis Philip, who was supposed to be the king over there, he was the constitutional monarch, he had to run away. He had to flee from his country. Again, France, instead of constitutional monarchy, it was declared a republic. Voting right was given to all males above 21 years, and they also gave the right to work. National Assembly was proclaimed, so this was it. Okay. Then you had done one attempt of uniting Germany. One attempt of uniting Germany, which was called as 1848 Revolution of the Liberals. You must have done about this, that is Revolution of the Liberals. This attempt was being done by the middle class politicians in Germany, where everybody got together. They all combined together. They marched till the Church of St. Paul's. They elected their National Assembly. They even formed their constitution, and they offered that King of Prussia becomes their king also. That is constitutional monarch, Kaiser William IV. But Kaiser William IV refused to become the king, and finally they went and formed their own National Assembly. But this National Assembly was opposed by the rich landlords, by the army also, as well as the King of Prussia also. So finally it was disbanded. What we talk about is 1848, the attempt to unite Germany had failed. Till here, sir must have done with you all. Now, from here onwards, kindly pay attention, all of you. Next, we are going to do about making of Germany and Italy. Now, children, what was happening that by the time it was, say, for example, 1848, nationalism was by the time it was 1848, nationalist sentiments was losing its idealistic spirit. And instead of that, people were trying to capture one weak country to make themselves strong. This was the kind of thinking which was coming up in Europe. We can understand this example very well. You all may close your books just now and listen to me carefully, because this is the topic which I'm going to start. I will be telling you when to open the book. Abhi sirf suno dhyan se. Jagvandan, you are supposed to wear your uniform, na? Jagvandan. Jagvandan Singh Sani, you are supposed to be in your uniform. Or should I remove you? Others are fools who are coming in the uniform. And you are very intelligent, I think. Next time, if you are in this kind of uniform, now you please. And these people who are very on and off, who are very fond of switching off their camera, na, you are, even I'll just switch you off. Okay, we all know that Germany had made one attempt to unify in the year 1848, but it was opposed by Junkers. Junkers means the rich landowners, as well as the army, as well as the King of Prussia. Okay, finally, what used to happen, that what I was telling you all, that everybody in the name of nationalism, they were wanting to make themselves strong. So here the first step will be taken by the King of Prussia. What he did is he appointed his minister, Otto von Bismarck, to unify the entire country into one country, that is Germany. Otto von Bismarck, he fought for 7 years, with three countries, Denmark, Austria, and France. And finally, he was able to unify this entire country into one. And on a bitterly cold morning in the Palace of Versailles, a procession was being held, and Kaiser William I, Kaiser William, the King of Germany is called as Kaiser. Kaiser William I of Prussia only, Kaiser William I of Prussia only, he was proclaimed as the King of Germany. And this was the year 1871 that Germany came into existence because of the efforts of Otto von Bismarck. Okay, he followed a policy of blood and iron, that is a very strict policy that either you give up or you be prepared to sacrifice your life. And finally, Germany came into existence. Now, it adopted the concept of monarchy form of government. As soon as this new country came up, it started focusing on its banking, on its legal, judicial, and transport and communication system. This monarchical form of government, it was there from 1871 to 1918, till the end of the First World War. If you remember in your 9th class, the beginning of chapter Rise of Nazism, it begins with formation of the Weimar Republic and abdication of the throne. Remember that? Okay. So Weimar Republic was formed in the year 1918 when the First World War ended. From 1871 till 1918, it was monarchy form of government which was going on in Germany. So no nation state was there. It was like this. Okay. This is all about your unification of Germany. Please pay attention. Next, we are going to do about unification of Italy. Italy was divided. When we talk of Italy, it is in the shape of a shoe. Italy was divided into 7 major states. Out of this, we are going to study four of them. Okay. Here, there was the Sardinia-Piedmont Plateau. Sardinia-Piedmont Plateau was there, which was ruled by Italian princely house. Princely house. Here, it was the Habsburg dynasty of Austria. Habsburg dynasty of Austria. The central was the papal state, that is, it was ruled by Pope. And in the south, it was the Bourbon king of Spain. Bourbon, Spanish. Bourbon king of Spain were there. Beside this, Medona and Parmacy and all these places were also there. So this was the condition of Italy. And we all know that twice Giuseppe Mazzini attempted to unite Italy in 1860, in 1831 and 1848, and both his attempts failed. Okay, both his attempts failed. So now the responsibility of uniting Italy, it was undertaken by this person, Italian princely house. The king here was Victor Emmanuel II. Victor Emmanuel II, he appointed, again the videos are off. Okay, King Victor Emmanuel II was a king, and he took the responsibility. He appointed his minister, Camillo Caviar, Count de Caviar. And Count de Caviar was a very expert diplomat. Diplomat is that person who's something else in front of you and something else behind you. He negotiated with France and Austria and all that countries. And finally, he was helped by Giuseppe Mazzini also. One more Giuseppe was there. His name was Giuseppe Garibaldi. Giuseppe Garibaldi organized his own troop, and a number of volunteers from Italy only, they joined together this Giuseppe Garibaldi's forces, and they marched over here in the south of Italy. They drove out this Bourbon king of Spain. Is that clear? And finally, Italy was united. King Victor Emmanuel II, he was proclaimed as the king of Italy in the year 1861. Clear, children? Everybody? Show your thumbs up. Understood, everyone? Okay, fine. So this is how Italy came into existence. Okay. Next, I'm going to talk about unification of Great Britain. Okay. The word in your book, the heading in your book is Strange Case of Great Britain. Why it is called a Strange Case of Great Britain? किताबें बंद कर दो बच्चों, बिल्कुल बंद कर दो और ध्यान से सुनो, सिर्फ सुनो. मैं जब बोलूंगी तब किताब खोल के बैठना. Strange Case of Great Britain. Why it is called? Because no war was fought over here. Okay, and yet they were able to combine this great country into, it was say 2-3 countries were combined into Great Britain without fighting only. That is why it says that it was called as what? Strange Case of Great Britain. Now let us see what was the condition in Great Britain. Actually, it was Great Britain. Today we call it as United Kingdom of Great Britain. Earlier it was called as British Isle. British Isle, and this was inhabited by 4 ethnic groups. 4 ethnic groups. Okay, Welsh, Scots, Irish, and English. 4 groups were there. Okay, and in this 4 ethnic groups, which each of this group had their own identity. Welsh from New South Wales, Scottish from Scotland, Irish from Ireland, and English from England. Okay, out of this one group became very prominent. That was the English. That is, they became very wealthy. They became very powerful. And in the year 1688, first of all, after a long drawn out procedure, the word in your book is protracted. It means what? A long drawn out procedure. The first thing which they did was that they converted themselves into constitutional monarchy. What was it? Constitutional monarchy. Now till here, children, we are going to do, in the next class we are going to complete the chapter, and then I'm going to make you all mark in the book itself. Okay, because your time is running short. Okay. Okay, क्या करना पहले तुम?